So, you have a young family member who was just diagnosed with sickle cell disease, or SCD, and naturally, you were looking for answers.
Right, it's a terrifying moment when you first get that news.
Yeah, absolutely. Is an SCD diagnosis a death sentence today?
Probably already know the mutation turns flexible red blood cells into a rigid half-moon shape.
Right, the sickle shape.
Exactly. But historically, that mechanism was just an absolute wall. In African medical literature from the 1870s, affected infants were termed ogbanjis.
Oh, wow. What does that mean?
It roughly translates to children who come and go because, well, the infant mortality rate was just so incredibly severe back then.
And that severity really comes down to how those cells behave in the bloodstream. Like, if normal blood cells are, smooth cars gliding down a highway, these sickled cells are like, well, they're like cars covered in jagged metal hooks.
Right, they snag on everything.
Yeah, it's not just a localized traffic jam. It's a catastrophic multi-car pileup where the rigid cells snag onto each other and the blood vessel walls.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
It is, yeah. They completely block oxygen delivery, and that causes severe organ damage and those invisible 3 to 4 day pain crises.
And the human toll of those blockages went unaddressed by modern medicine for an incredibly long time. The genetic mutation itself traces back roughly 70,000 to 150,000 years.
Really? That old?
Yeah, but the first formally documented case in the US wasn't until 1904 in a dental student named Walter Clement Noel.
I mean, if we map this out in 1904, it doesn't really make sense that the major legislative and medical push didn't happen until the 1970s.
Because SCD predominantly affects people of African descent, the medical establishment largely ignored it. The breakthrough in attention came from the Black Panther Party in the late 1960s and 70s.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they set up free clinics and ran relentless advocacy campaigns that finally forced the government's hand.
So community activism is what actually funded the lab work.
Wow.
That pressure directly led to the 1972 National Sickle Cell Anemia Control Act.
It did, yeah. That act injected crucial federal funding into research, which maps directly to the management drugs your family member might use today.
Like voxelator. Right?
Exactly. Voxelator works by actually binding to the hemoglobin to stop those hooks from forming, keeping the cells smooth. And then there's hydroxyurea and Endari, which work on different pathways to reduce the frequency of those painful pileups.
Medical students created a trivia game called Grapes to teach young patients the vocabulary of their disease. When your family member knows their own symptoms and treatments, they aren't just letting doctors dictate things. They are empowered to self-advocate during a hospital visit.
And self-advocacy is crucial for living a long, healthy life with SCD. But the conversation has recently shifted from just managing the pileups to, well, completely clearing the highway.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
It does. Take Daniel Cressy, a 23-year-old from Louisiana. The FAA denied his commercial pilot license because the altitude risks with SCD were just too high.
Right, because if a pain crisis hits mid-flight, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
So how does he get around a permanent genetic roadblock?
Well, what's fascinating here is that he underwent Casgevy. It's a CRISPR-Cas9 gene therapy. Instead of just treating the symptoms, doctors extracted his stem cells and sent them to Scotland.
Sent them to Scotland, wow.
Yeah, and using CRISPR, scientists acted like molecular scissors, literally editing the DNA inside those stem cells so they would produce healthy, non-sickling hemoglobin instead of the mutated version.
So they wipe out his original defective bone marrow with chemotherapy and infuse these newly edited smart cells back into his body to repopulate his blood.
Exactly. And he is now functionally cured.
So what does this all mean for you and your newly diagnosed family member? It means you can take a breath.
Yeah, you really can.
But it does leave you wondering, with CRISPR successfully creating a life too for patients like Daniel, how long until we can routinely edit out other inherited genetic conditions before they ever cause harm?
That's the big question.
Right. And as these miraculous cures hit the market, how do we ensure everyone gets equal access to them?